Hi, Zarka from Magpie Gemstones. I'm going to show you how to make simple clasps that you can make yourself out of wire, so you don't have to buy them. I'm going to do it in pretty large gauge wire, mostly so that you can see. You can do this in 20, you could do it in 22, but you kind of got to change the design then from what I'm showing you. All the way up to, I think I've made these probably up to 6 gauge. Those were honking clasps. Do you want to see my pile of wire? I wonder if I can show you. Yeah, let's see. So I went in this basket, and I picked out some wire. Love this stuff. I go down to the recycling yard, and I just get huge chunks of wire. I've got big rolls of it. I've got wire everywhere. I have no idea what gauge this is. I know one of you is going to ask, so let's see here if I can figure it out with the handy dandy wire gauge measure. Thank you, Miss Sherry Dancing Feather. This is 15 gauge, it says. I've never heard of 15 gauge wire. So I'm going to guess it's 16, but it's just not quite exactly right. I was thinking of using this wire to show you. And this is 12 gauge. The amount of hammering I would have to do, it takes to be so darned noisy, it would drive you insane. Okay, so you can make any kind of clasp that, for the most part, that you see for sale with wire, with the exception of a box clasp. I'm sure if you got creative enough, you could figure out how to do that one as well. Simple S clasps, hook and eye clasps. Oh dang, what are those things called? Where you have the the round and the flat, and then they go through together. What are those called? Looks like this. Anyway, you can make these as well. There's no reason why you can't make those, but I'm just going to show you the hook and eye, and I'm going to show you an S clasp, and then I'm going to show you how to do a jump ring properly. A lot of the jump rings I see out there just are not done right and fall apart fairly easily. Okay, so I'm going to run through this pretty quick. Here's your wire. Now you want to cut. I know that you're not supposed to use your Lindstroms on anything bigger than, I think it's 18 gauge. I will them through the copper. I just melt it through and hope for the best, and so far my Lindstroms are sharp and gorgeous. So I do the flat on this end. Now you need to take into consideration the end of your clasp. What is it going to go through? Are you going to be making your own jump ring? Is it going to go through a pre-made jump ring? Is it going into chain? Do you want it to be able to go into many different sizes of lengths of chain? If so, you might want to leave this straight so it's small enough to go through the chain, and you want to make sure you're using a gauge of wire that works for what it is that you're doing. So if it can be a little bit bigger than this, or about this big, one of the ways is to hammer it flat. Now, you would hammer it flat, turn it over, so you would have an ending, but it wouldn't necessarily take up much more room than the single strand does now. Quite often I make my own other end. I can never remember a hook and eye, I guess the eye part. And so I want this to be a little bit more substantial because I want there to be some resistance so it doesn't just slip out. You have to work it out just a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to grab my pliers. I like my Reveres. Let's see if I can find those. Reveres are fantastic for getting tight on the ends, especially big, thick wire. Look at how skinny these guys are. And yet I could go here, watch this, and do that. Wow. I don't know. I was impressed. I like to use my crimps. When I bent, I didn't make it flat, so I'm going to straighten out a bit with that. And I'm going to use my crimping pliers, tighten that end up a bit. Then I have to decide how big my loop is going to be. You know, and that has to fit with the design of your necklace. You don't want a big honkin' link with a little tiny necklace, and you want a big honkin' link with a big necklace. So there we go. There you got a hook. Give it a snip. Melt my Lindstroms through the big thick wire. Make the end that's going to go on the necklace, or the bracelet, or whatever. I give these a bit of a hammer. Now on thinner wire, you're going to want to do that to strengthen it so that it doesn't come undone if the necklace were to be pulled. I do it on the bigger wire because I like the way it looks. Now, if what you're doing is you're just hardening a clasp so that it doesn't fall apart on you, then use the nylon or the rawhide hammer, and that will harden the wire without changing the shape. You can also make up a bunch of these at the same time and stick them in a tumbler. Alright, so I've got my clasp. I'm just going to close that in there with my crimping pliers. And no, I can't get any more of these crimping pliers, and no, I don't know where you can buy them. They're got them many moons ago. Okay, so there's my eye clasp. Now you can put this right through a jump ring. Like I said before, you can put it right through a chain. It's all good. You're done, right? One of the things I like to do is make my own eye. There's a number of ways that you can make your own eye. Oh, this is the wrong one. That's a real thick one. I was like, holy, this is going to be hard. You can just make a figure 8. Show you how to do that. So, there you go. Go around, see where we're at. And snap. And then I have to snip one more time to make that flat. Yes, actually that will work. Okay, and then I'm going to hammer this so that it's flat. I'm going to use my crimping pliers to poke these in. Edges in. And there we have an S-clasp, or a hook and eye. The eye part. You can put leather through this side, you can put your jewelry through this side, whatever, and this side is your hook. The one I like to make, and that you'll often see on my jewelry, is, I'll do it up real quick for you so you can see how it's done. And what I do is make a spiral. I need my big flat nose pliers. There we go. Move that over. Make a spiral. See? You give that a hammer, make it look good. Get rid of the plier marks. Then, see what I'm doing? I know, Sandy, I'm noisy, aren't I? I go like that. Sandy hates it when I hammer. It's got to be hard on the ears. So here we are. I'm going to cut, keeping this flush side up against this work so that I have less to file off and worry about over here. Then this is the part that'll go on your bracelet or your necklace. I'm going to give that a little bit of a hammer. And I'm going to give this rounded end a hammer so that this doesn't unbend. On anyone. Pinch, pinch. Use my crimping pliers to shore that up. And bring that clasp in. And there I have the eye to my hook. Now you see, if I hammer this a little bit flatter, this won't come out. I'll show you. Oh, good, the phone's ringing. let's just ignore that for a little while. Okay. When I do like this, this can only go on. I have to tighten this up. I have to make it the right width. This can't go on like this. It just won't go. It won't fit. You have to have it at a bit of an angle to get the clasp on, and then it can't fall off. Well, it can right now, but I have to make this space a little smaller. This piece can't come off. It gets hung up. And in order to get the necklace off, you have to turn this at a bit of an angle or turn this at a bit of an angle. And it just, especially on a bracelet, it just gives it a little bit more security. And that's that. Okay, so we've done the hook and eye, two kinds of eyes. If you want me to show you how to do an S-clasp, we'll do that real quick. And on this one, I'll show you how you need let's say you need this tip to be smaller because you're going to be putting it through chain, or you have a predetermined jump ring size that you want to use. So you don't want to turn it and hammer it on the flat side like I did. You want to hammer it first before you make the clasp. Or just use it like this and file the end. Okay, so we're going to hammer that wire flat. So you've got a paddle. Use your pliers to turn it. And use your other pliers. I use my crimping pliers to flatten that out. Do you see what I did there? So it really doesn't take up that much more diameter than the wire did initially. It's pretty much the same. So it will fit through whatever it is that you're looking at fitting it through. Okay, so I'm going to stick my pliers here. Determine the circumference by how high up I go on my pliers, or you can use bail making pliers, or whatever. You can use a crochet hook, whatever has the right diameter that you want to do this with. Here, I stick it right here, and I end up with a perfect S. Now I cut it. You want to use the flat side against your work. I want to open that up, and I need to hammer this side flat. Can you see me over here? Yeah, you can. Okay, so I'm going to hammer this side flat. Make it paddled. Alright. Turn that over. Pinch. Okay. And I have to resize, rework this around because it got it's harder to do with the thicker wire. Thinner wire, it's much easier. Okay, so I've got an S-clasp now. Now what happens when you make a paddle and you turn those over is quite often there's a sharp edge right here. Right there. And how to prevent that, sometimes you can hammer it out really gently. And sometimes you need to use your file. You can tumble it. I'm going to hammer these bottom rounded parts so they can't come unbent again. Unbent? Is that proper English? No idea. Alright. So, right now this isn't the prettiest. I'm trying to move really quick. You take your time, mess around, make a bunch, and soon you'll have a little bowl. Or I'll show you my little bowl. Where's my little bowl? You'll have a little bowl full of clasps that you've made yourself that you can dig through and use when you need to use them. Ta-da! Okay, so there's an S-clasp. Change the shape, you can change the size, you can change the size of the wire, you can do all kinds of stuff. You got your own S-clasp. Now, what I'm going to go over as quick as possible is something that appears simple. It's jump ring that many people don't do well. Okay, the important thing is to find the wire that you're working with. There we go. Make sure you flush cut the end. So important, because this end has to be flat against the other side of the circle, or they won't hold your beading wire in. They'll fall apart. All kinds of stuff. Now, at this point, a lot of people will wrap around, like I said before, a knitting needle, or you can use a coiling gizmo. But I like to make things difficult for myself. So what I do is I just wrap around pliers, and I always make sure the wire goes on the same spot so that they're always the same size. And I'm only making a few because let's say I'm making a necklace and I need 4 of them. So I'm going to make 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 4. So I'm going to take my cutters, and I'm not going to try to cut through all of them at once. These are really thick wire. You might be able to cut through a few at once if the wire was thinner. I'm going to cut one at a time. I'm going to just squeeze my lovely Lindströms through this thick wire. Just cut it through. It's my little hope that I don't ruin my Lindströms. Okay, so I've got 4 jump rings. Now, one side, let's hope you can see this. One side is flush cut, see that? The other side is not. You gotta go back in with your cutters and flush cut the other side, or they won't fit together. Ta-da! Okay, so now you've got a gaping hole, right? And with this thick of wire, if you just squeezed it together, you'd end up with an oval, not a round. And if you don't care if your jump rings are oval, no problem. But you might want your jump rings to be round, so I'll show you how to go about doing that, especially with thicker wire. Okay, so I'm just going to take 2 pliers and make sure these are lined up in the same spot. And at this point, you can take your pliers and just, well, actually what they recommend is that you take your pliers, I'll do it the way that they say, and see if I can do it with this thick wire, and just keep working it back and forth until the ends are together. It does work, but you see, I ended up with an oval. I don't have a perfect round. I don't like that. I take my crimp pliers and I put one end over the notch and give a little squeeze. Okay, and they're still not straight. It's okay. Working back and forth again till the ends meet. Now, if your crimping pliers won't go all the way around it, you can use your flats. Ow, but that happens. Ow. Okay, I like to hammer my jump rings, and whenever you hammer them, the opening spreads apart. This is how I find the best way to make my oval jump rings round again. So I squeeze a little bit on each end and then squeeze in the middle. Now, there is a pretty darn good jump ring, if I must say so myself. Looks like a washer. It's really tight. It is not going to let any beading wire go through. Now, if it's not perfectly aligned, I can go back in and snip just a little bit. If you want me to show you what I mean, I will. Let's pretend this one side isn't perfectly aligned. And I'm going to snip it. Maybe. See? And then I will go back again. See why it might just be easier to buy jump rings? But then you can't make honkin' jump rings like these. And you can't make them exactly the flatness you want, and yada yada yada. So, there we go. Now, they are, I think, perfect. There you have it. So this can be the other end of a, no it can't, because this isn't the right, see what I mean? This will not fit in, because this was hammered flat. This, because it was hammered the other way, will fit in. I'm going to flip it around. See? There you have it. I know they're not perfect, but I was trying to move really fast. Do you want to say hi to my dog? Sandy, come here. Sandy, come here. Look. Can you say bye? Well, up here. Look. Look, there's a kitty. Do you see the kitty? Say thank you. Bye from Magpie Gemstones. Oh, you're a good girl. Yeah, you are.